Thank you very much, Oireachtas. Minister, you're very welcome here, and thank you for coming in to answer this question. I raise this matter because it's been brought to my attention by Independent County Councillor in Cork, Declan Hurley. So much attention has been paid in recent weeks to the rising cost of living in Ireland, and we are not unique in that respect in the Western Hemisphere. From cuts in excise duty to lump sum payments, the Government is engaging in a suite of measures to aid families and individuals in maintaining their standards of living in the face of inflation. This is to be recognised and commended. One area which has proved particularly problematic is that of energy in the broad sense, from home heating to petrol, home electricity and broadband. Earlier this month, the once-off payment of €125 to those in receipt of the fuel allowance was given out, and this was certainly a bonus to those feeling the pinch of rising costs in that area. However, a key aspect of this kind of assistance is the threshold associated with it, the cut-off, usually based upon income, which decides exactly how much households can avail of it. As important as it is to raise payments or lump sums awards to react quickly to changing circumstances in the economy, it is equally important to examine that threshold and to appraise in the same way. Many families find themselves having to pay close attention to their weekly earnings, and becoming wary of additional sources of income or raise less may end up losing out on items of state assistance, resulting in a net loss of income. While making this distinction between eligible and ineligible households is flawed, it remains the most efficient way of administering such schemes. This only remains true, however, if that threshold accurately reflects the reality of the experience of the families of the country, and it is raised or lowered in order to maintain the balance of expenditure and need. In light of the expenses being faced by families in this area of fuel and energy, I am asking you, Minister, to consider making the necessary arrangements with the Minister for Public Expenditure in order to raise the qualifying income threshold for the fuel allowance. The current income levels for receipt of the fuel allowance are as follows. For a single person under 80, €373.30. For a couple where the qualified adult is aged under 66, it's €542. For a couple where the qualified adult is aged 66 or over, it is €600.30. My ask of the Government is that the fiscal examination of the effects of the inflation on fuel and heating costs take place, and that this informs a raising of these income thresholds by an amount deemed to be proportionate, so as to allow stretched budget households to avail of their support. Can you please indicate, Minister, whether this option is one that you will investigate, and if not, what measures do you have in mind in order to further alleviate the burden of heating costs in this country for the most vulnerable? Thank you.
Minister.
First of all, thanks for raising this issue, and I'm taking this question on behalf of Minister Humphreys. The Government is committed to protecting vulnerable households from the impact of energy costs through a combination of financial supports, energy efficiency awareness initiatives and investment in programmes to improve the energy efficiency of housing stock, much of which is through our department in terms of local authority stock. With regards to the fuel allowance payment as part of Budget 2022, Minister Humphreys announced a €5 increase in the weekly rate for payment with immediate effect, and this brought the weekly rate up to €33. A number of expansions to the eligibility criteria for fuel allowance payment were also announced at that time. The weekly means threshold for fuel allowance scheme was increased by €20 to €120, above the appropriate rate of contributory state pension, representing a 20% increase in the threshold, which enables more people to qualify for this support. With effect from the start of the next fuel season, the qualifying period for job seekers and supplementary welfare allowance recipients to access the fuel allowance payment will be reduced from 15 to 12 months. The Government has therefore implemented a significant expansions in relation to fuel allowance through Budget 2022. Further Government measures were only recently announced to help mitigate the effects of rising energy costs caused by the war in Ukraine and wider energy challenges internationally. As part of this package, from a measure of totalling of over €500 million, an additional lump sum payment of €125 was paid to all households in receipt of fuel allowance payment, and it is expected that this additional lump sum will cost an estimated €49 million in 2022. This means that low-income households will see an increase of 41% in fuel allowance support provided during this fuel allowance season compared to last season. A recipient household which would have received €735 in fuel season 2020 to 21 would see an increase of €304 to €1,039 in fuel allowance payments in fuel season 21 to 22. When taken in conjunction with the electricity costs emergency benefit payment due to be paid in April, this household would have received over €500 in additional targeted government supports over the course of this fuel season. The fuel allowance is not the only payment available from the Department of Social Protection to help people with their energy costs. The household benefits package comprises of electricity or gas allowance and the free television licence. In 2022, the estimated cost of gas and electricity element of the package is €203 million and will benefit over 476,000 households. The gas and electricity element is paid at a rate of €35 per month for 12 months of the year. Furthermore, the Department of Social Protection operates both exceptional and urgent need payments as part of the Supplementary Welfare Allowance Scheme for people who have an urgent need which they cannot meet from their own resources, and these payments are available through the community welfare officers. The provision of further additional supports to those in receipt of fuel allowance payment would have cost implications and could only be considered while taking account of the overall budgetary context and the availability of financial resources. So I think in response, Senator, I think it's important to note that significant interventions have been made by both the Minister Heather Humphreys, but also across government to try and tackle this current crisis around energy costs. And I think long term, the strategy has to be deep retrofit our homes, local authority stock, private housing stock, the incentives that Minister Ryan has brought in, and my colleague Minister O'Brien in terms of the local authority stock will over time make a significant impact. But we are cognizant of the fact that the challenge remains with people now, and that's why we're consistently and constantly trying to review and ensure that we can have supports, sufficient supports for families to meet this really significant crisis that is facing us all. Thank you.
Senator Keogan.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this the reply you have given, but I suppose really it's not enough, and we can judge it by the inflation and the way things are going at this moment in time. It's certainly not enough. Already the price of a bag of coal, and I know the Green agenda is to get rid of coal, but already that has gone up by 50% since last September, and that will further go up again in May with the carbon tax. The price of oil, the price of 1,000 litres of oil is nearly €1,500. So what you're giving now at this moment in time is simply not enough. It's not bearing in mind the inflation rates that we're having in this country, and I think you definitely need to do more with regard to increasing the threshold that's there for at this moment in relation to the fuel allowance. Thank you.
Just, I suppose, in relation to the phasing out of fossil fuels, it's something all parties in this House and all parties across the Oireachtas have signed up to. So I think it's critically important that we continue that trajectory. But there's no doubt that the transition needs to be managed, and I think that's something that we're cognizant of. We're mindful that we need to support families through this crisis that has hit us all. And again, Minister Humphreys, through her department, hasn't been found wanting in trying to ensure that the supports are put in place, and protecting vulnerable households are particularly important. And with regard to the fuel allowance payment as part of Budget 2022, the annual increase of €5, the weekly rate of payment, had immediate effect and bringing up that weekly rate to €33. So this, coupled with the additional measures that Minister Humphreys has brought in, is part of a broader suite of progressive measures that the Irish Government is looking at. Taoiseach was speaking about it in the Dáil earlier today. We are continuing to review and see what additional supports we can put in place to ensure that families can meet these challenges. There's no doubt it is challenging government. We have a limited in terms of our capacity to do so, but I think we have been progressive to date, and we will continue to evaluate and monitor and support in whatever way we can. Thank you.